Hi, welcome to T-Bad's Trucks and Stuff. I just about got this box finished. A little more to go. I have a few more spots to get in here and make sure I do a good job. I have to clean all the overspray and whatever in the gas door area. I could have prevented that probably by taping it off or something, but oh well. And then I have the bottom edges there and back here, especially back here where the tire kicks all the stones up at it. Make sure I clean that up really good, get a fresh layer of epoxy primer on there. And the rest of this is all at a sandable primer level anyways. And we got just a little bit of fine tuning up here where I did some filler work in my last video, and just around the edges. I think there's a spot right over here that showed up that I didn't know that was there before. So we'll get to her. Got a dent right there to fix, but I'm not gonna get that one quite yet. Right now I'm gonna get these bottom edges, get some epoxy primer on there. Gotta sand them down first, get all the loose paint and whatever out of the way. But then some epoxy primer and the sandable primer, get it to the same level as the rest of the box here to be able to sand and then paint over top. But it got left to the end like that because it's way down here and I didn't want to do a whole bunch of working on my back laying in the grass. So I'm just gonna flip it over and do it so it's like right side up. There we go. That was nice and easy. Now you can see all the little stone chips that have been getting at it over the years. So we'll be able to clean all that up real good, blend it down into the primer, new paint job over top. What's this side like? Ooh, a little dent right there. It's right at the bottom. I don't know if I'll worry about it, but see all the paint coming off over there? Little teeny rust flakes, paint coming off. But it don't get much easier than that, right in front of me. There was quite a few little rust speckles in all the stone chips underneath the paint there. So it's basically bare paint. We'll get a fresh coat of epoxy. I'm gonna take care of this dent. Well, it came out a little bit better than it was. No damage up there, but I did hit it right there. I'll just have to touch that up later. Covering it back up here. That was just the third coat. Nice wet coat of epoxy primer. And then I'm going to peel the tape down lower. I got it all prepped with 400 underneath, and we'll blend in the filler primer to the other filler primer. Covering it back up here. That was just the third coat. Nice wet coat of epoxy primer. And then I'm going to peel the tape down lower. I got it all prepped with 400 underneath, and we'll blend in the filler primer to the other filler primer. I peeled away the tape while it was wet here. I had it rolled back, but it gave me a decently soft edge versus these couple spots where it was tighter and it made a hard edge. All the edges on the passenger side all sealed in there now. ready with sandable primer. Had one little error happen right over here. Not sure what went on, but the epoxy primer reacted in that spot, and we got some bubbly paint that we'll have to fix. Got that little spot where the paint didn't adhere good cleaned up. We'll get a new coat of paint on there. And these little screw holes, some of them around the wheel lip and little chips on the edges, got them cleaned up, and we'll get another coat of epoxy primer and the filler primer. And around the edge here, there's a couple little lines where the molding was. I'm gonna sand those down and fill them up a little better at the same time here. Sand it just like that. Let the filler primer do its job. We're back to the epoxy layer. Now we'll do a little epoxy because there's some bare spots up there. Otherwise we could just go right back into filler primer, but we'll do epoxy, filler. I'll sand out over the edge a little bit so it blends in nicely, and keep going around. Here's the driver's side, and you can see just a quick bit of sanding, and a lot of highs and lows are starting to get filled by that filler primer. Now here's the epoxy on there, blend it in around the lip, and then blend that into the rest of the primer with more filler primer. Got a couple more coats to go, and it'll be all back to a sandable layer. Filler primer blended in really nicely. So on to the next bit. Now let's fix that little guy. I scuffed it into the epoxy there with 80 grit. Man, I just can't spread that Bondo nice at all. It's sanding out alright. This is my rough sanding with 80 grit. And here it is, sanded down smooth. And it's got some bubbles in it. Tiny bit of glazing spot putty stuff. I don't use that very often, but it was just a little pinhole. Glazing putty sanded down just to barely fill them holes, and now we're going to epoxy primer. Sealed it in there with some epoxy primer, and there we are. Sandable primer back to a sandable surface like the rest, and we'll move on to the next spot. One more small dent to repair right here. This area, I noticed it reflecting pretty bad when it was facing the other direction. And then down here is the body work I did in the last video. We gotta just smooth it out and get it leveled out really good over there. Can you see it now? There it is, now you can see it. That was in there. Little slash mark, kind of like that. We'll fill it in. Okay, I'm gonna stop touching it here because I actually spread it kind of decent that time. Good thing I was patient and came back for this one. It's going pretty good. There's a rough sanding with 80 grit. Oh, I got a little bit of a low spot in there. We'll have to fill it up a little more. Filler layer number 2. While I wait for this to get hard, I'm working over here cleaning out all this overspray I got in there. And why did I get that in there? Oh yeah, I was being lazy and I didn't tape it off. Here it is, all smoothed out everywhere until there's no orange peel left anywhere. And now we'll put some epoxy on the low spots and another coat or 3 of filler primer over everything else. I can see in the epoxy there the two different layers of Bondo, I didn't quite get them blended perfectly. So I'm gonna have a little bit more to do afterwards in that area. Man, that's a lot of messing around to get those cleaned out in there. But I'm gonna flip this box back right side up now and work on it the proper facing direction. There we go. Got it on a little trailer. That'll make it easy to move wherever I need to in the yard according to the wind direction to be able to paint. And from here, all I have to do is my 400 wet sanding and tie into the other paints, and away we go. Well, she's all cleaned up, masked off, and all the dust and overspray out of the gas doors. So to finish off today, I'm gonna get the epoxy primer inside here, seal off any bare metal that I exposed, feather it out into the rest with the high build primer, and everything's ready to be sanded for a top coat after that. This is spray can epoxy primer, but it turns out really good for doing these small repairs like this. I got it all sanded down with 400. We're out in the yard, ready to do some painting. Sanded out nicely, but for some reason, a whole bunch of bugs decided to come out. See, there's one of them there. So I'm hoping it'll be sunny enough. Once the sun gets up just a little higher, it'll take care of all the bugs, and we'll be able to get this thing painted today. Too bad. Now a couple more minutes, I'll just skim those spots with a piece of sandpaper and we'll keep going. Did you see that? I ran out of paint in the corner there before I was done. But it only took about 2 minutes to mix up another batch and get back in there. It's spraying pretty good. I feel like I used more paint on the second side than the first side. But first coat complete. We're doing all right for the bugs, so I just gotta wait in between each coat. Like there is bugs. See what if I can get them or not. That guy might be a little bit too bad, but whatever. We're going with what we got. At least there's only minor amounts. Here it is. I went with 2 heavier coats rather than 3 light ones. That way there was less chance of bugs getting in. Turned out pretty good. All the inside edges are nice. I think the biggest issue, if you can see it, very hard to see, but there's some ladybug tracks over here. He did a little wave. Sprayed pretty nice though. Got another bug over here, but not that bad. Only 1 or 2 bugs in it. Some little footprints. Turned out pretty nice, I think. Well, that'll do it. Got her wheeled inside this little building because it's gonna rain tonight, and hope it dries and cures really nicely. See you next time.